Better teaser, better recap. But at this point, who gives a crap? The Enterprise is falling apart. Could it be this episode's heavy heart? No matter, this should have happened a long time ago. But that doesn't mean the series has hit another low. Actually, my attention was pretty rapt. My energy is barely sapped. All said and done, I like the damage and the part about Trillian D. So much so, I didn't even lie and said I had to go pee. I'm Josh.
I'm Justin.
And this is From There to Here. All right, this week's episode is called Damage. It's episode 19 of season 3. And according to the IMDb, this is what it's about. Captain Archer has been returned to Enterprise by the Xindi Council, awaiting a hearing. But after a heavy attack by the Reptilians, Enterprise is stranded without a functional warp drive. They meet another ship in trouble because of space anomalies. The ship's captain isn't willing to trade in their warp coil, and Archer must make a tough decision. Meanwhile, T'Pol is having some strange sensations and and can't control her emotions. What do you think this is rated on the IMDb?
I would say 7.8.
Yeah, I think this is probably in the high sevens. I'll agree with you and say 7.8. That sounds good to me. Oh, 8.1.
Yeah, I would have originally said it would be in the 8s, but it would seem like in this last season, whenever they've had one that would have been like an episode in the first 2 seasons that would have been considered an 8, now they're like downgrading because they're hating on the season so much. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm kind of surprised this one actually crossed the finish line of the 8s.
Okay. What do you have for background info?
Not a whole lot. Just the main obvious one. This is according to Wikipedia. Casey Biggs, who played the Irillian, I think that's how you say it. Irillian captain, is better known for
Aurelian.
I know. Is better for starring as the Cardassian Damar on Deep Space Nine. The producers told him, well, we're creating a new race here, and he was interested to be a part of that, but they never wrote any more about the Irillians.
I was like, we'll never see them again.
There's a little more about how they may have shown up. There was a little blurb, though, because I was looking at the references section, and there's a quote from Casey Biggs. Let me find it again. Oh, yeah. Okay. He apparently said this to StarTrek.com. Quote, with all due respect, I never really cared for Enterprise very much in terms of what the writing was. So,
well, did you just add that part?
No, that's him. I'm just trying to add flair. Let me say it again. With all due respect, I never really cared for Enterprise very much in terms of what the writing was.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, not a overall fan of the show, it would seem.
But he still went on it.
Well, money.
Gotta pay the bills.
Yeah. Everyone has a mortgage.
That's true. I like this one.
Yeah.
What was your impression of it?
No, it's a good episode.
Yeah, my memory of it was good. It's a moral conundrum.
Yeah. I mean, we all remembered how it ended, so there was no question about that. But yeah, it was a good episode. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse when I say this, but
maybe that's what we should have called our podcast, beating a dead horse.
Yeah, maybe.
On the road to nowhere. Yeah.
I read, I think in one of those references, a little blurb. In fact, let me see if I can see who said it, because it caught my attention. There it is. Okay. Well, it's I don't mean this to be rude, but it's no one of any consequence said this. Enterprise was forever torn between our future and Star Trek's past. Okay. I think that's a pretty good way to put it. I think that's a variation on a theme of what I've said about the whole show so far, which is, they're trying to be this new thing, but they're kind of pigeonholed by what Star Trek used to be. Mm-hmm. And, this is an episode that I think manages to succeed in what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. It's just a shame there's not more like it. unfortunately.
When you say by what it used to be at that point, did you mean like what TNG had become?
Yeah, well, I mean, TNG, Voyager. I mean, D Space Nine is the anomaly, so we can't really look at D Space Nine.
Okay.
But the formula, the format, and the let's say family friendly nature of Star Trek, you know, Enterprise, especially the first season, was like definitely in this weird zone of a little bit of both of those things, and it just did not hit the mark. But this episode,
this episode does.
It does, both in terms of story, in acting, and as you and I talked about as the episode was playing, visually, it was interesting to look at. I mean, I think they
created shadows. They turned off the lights.
They had high contrast. It actually looked good. I enjoyed looking at the episode. They had more sparks than I've ever seen on a Star Trek episode before. No. You know, that always gives a sense of motion, of things happening, busyness. And it filled almost every frame, you know, gave it life, more life than the show has had for a long time. Of course, I knew that the stuff, the plot line with T'Pol and the Trillium D, I knew that was coming. I didn't know it would come to a head in this episode. I didn't remember that at all. I mean, I don't know what to say. It was a good episode. You know, I dead horse here. I wish there was more like this, you know.
I do as well. Overall, though, it's an episode that, even though I enjoy it, you got to let it breathe. You can't go back to it that often.
True.
But not like 2 days and 2 nights. That you can watch.
Well, you know,
every day.
Classic. There's Balance of Terror, and then there's 2 days, 2 nights. Well, best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Endgame.
Yes. There are a lot of good things in the episode that maybe people haven't addressed. But one part of it that I really liked was that I'd forgotten about going in was with the Doctor. The Doctor served as this voice of reason. Not that he hasn't in the past, but he was 2 times in the episode. The voice of reason for Archer and the voice of reason for T'Pol. He was somebody they both went to when they were in trouble. And it's not made a point of.
No.
It's just someone they go to. And he's the Doctor. He's not in command of the ship. Right. He's just an older guy that has been around for a while, and they need clarity, so they go to this guy. And I thought that was a really good idea.
I agree. I liked it.
Yeah.
Billingsley has a gravitas that...
He has a father-like quality.
Yeah, he does.
That's probably why he was cast.
And what's interesting to me is not advice, but the comments that he had for each of the characters in both of those scenes. The one with T'Pol was fairly what you would expect. Basically, it's going to get harder before it gets better.
Right.
And I mean, in a variation, that's exactly what he said to Archer. When Archer said, I'm going to be sending you that there's probably going to be dead people, you know? And normally such a comment would get a different response from a doctor. And he just said, yeah, I know. You know, he's like, you have to do it. He says it essentially, you know, you have to do this. There is no choice.
Right.
You know, not really. You know, it,
well, I appreciated the fact that the crew, when he told the crew what he was doing, they weren't immediately gung ho about it. They all took,
who would be?
Well, yeah, of course, they all took a pause, and they're like, "Wait a second, can we actually do this?" And then T'Pol becomes the conscience for everyone when she loses her mind, basically, and says, you know, you can't do this. This is wrong. We're no better than the marauders that attacked us.
I like that she quotes him back to himself.
What does she do?
She says, it was something like,
oh, right.
Giving up your human. If we lose our humanity, what are we fighting for?
Right.
Essentially. And he flips around and she goes, you said that. Remember? You know, now where are we? You know?
Don't be a great man. Just be a man. Let history make its own judgments.
Who said that?
It's poetic nonsense. Who said that anyway?
You did 10 years from now.
Yeah, on Tycho City in New Berlin.
Even Lake Armstrong on a day like
that's where you said it. Lake Armstrong, you were fishing. Anyway.
The moral debate, which is at the core of this episode. I know we do this a lot, but I can't help it. Referencing something else. Mm-hmm. There's an episode of Stargate SG-1.
Oh boy. No, I don't think we brought Stargate into this.
No, I don't think we have.
Okay.
But it's the kind of thing that it was, in my opinion, it was delivered so succinctly, so perfectly that any episode or movie of anything that has a moral type dilemma like this, for me, I always go back to this line because the way the character summed it up was perfect. And
are you going to provide context?
I am.
Okay.
The base was under attack. I don't know if you remember the details of SG-1, but they had a shield that essentially they could cover the Stargate.
Yeah, like it was armor.
Yeah, an armored thing, so no one could
come through.
Open a wormhole, because if they can open a wormhole to you, they could just throw a bomb through.
Right.
And there was. SG-1 was...
Didn't they call it like the Iris or something?
Yeah, the Iris, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, I remember some parts of the show.
Either all of SG-1 or maybe just one or two of the guys were off planet, and they could tell, the SGC could tell that something bad was going to come through if they didn't lock that up. And they knew in doing so, they were trapping their people on the other side. And I think it was Carter, that was in the command center when they're overlooking the Stargate.
Richard Dean Anderson?
No, the general.
Oh, right.
I forget
just
his
the
name.
general.
The bald, heavy general guy.
Yeah, right.
And they're looking at like a timer, how long until SG-1? Oh, they're not going to make it, And he looks to her and he says, "All right, everyone, close the Iris." And she goes, "Sir," and he goes, "I know, do it." Shum, shum, shum. So it closes it. And she said, "Sir, I don't, I can't imagine how hard that decision must have been to make." And this is what he said. He said, "The decision was easy. Living with it
is hard.
Was something else."
Okay.
And then he walks away. Living with it will be something else. There was no question what he had to do. It's just, he's the one that's going to have to live with it, And like, to me, that line is so perfect that someone could throw that out to Archer about this. How can you make this decision? The decision is easy. Living with it is something else. Done. Like, that's because yes, it's a moral question, but from Archer's perspective, and I would argue, anyone in that perspective, there really isn't a choice. You have to do it. It's either that or the species. It's not an option.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it so interesting to watch, because Star Trek characters are supposed to be so morally
virtuous
and ethically bound all the time, and they always do the right thing. They don't attack people. They help people. Right. But what happens when they get desperate? Well, we see. They have to pay the price, and they do. Yeah. Sorry. I think I cut off your.
No, that was it.
No, I mean, that was a good reference to SG-1. You're right. I mean, you had to make that tough call. Is it the correct thing to do? I mean, when you enter into these moral gray zones, it becomes so difficult to rationalize what you're doing. But
now I know they don't do this, but would you have liked a couple episodes from now for them to have circled back
and they see them again, but they're dead?
No, on purpose, to try and go back and maybe give the warp core back once they had more supplies or something. Whether they were dead or alive or whatever, would you have liked to have seen him try to repent for that?
No.
Okay.
I think that would have, in real life, someone might do that, but in the dramatic arc of a show, that would have taken the piss out of the whole thing, so to speak.
Fair enough.
To do that. Let him live with it.
And never know. Did they make it or did they not?
I mean, he, I think maybe it would have been interesting if he had said to the crew when he issued the order and they all acted as they did, aghast, and he'd said, I know you don't want to do this. You're not doing it. I am. Like,
Right.
I'm making the call. You're following my order.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to live with this. I do. I think if he had said that, it may have made that moment a bit stronger to them.
Or if he had said, the decision was easy. Living with it is something else.
Or that.
That's it. It's over.
Or he could have said to the crew, hey guys, I want to show you the scene from a show called Stargate SG.
Because how do you argue with
This
that
is how I feel
logic?
right now.
You can't argue with that because they're not stupid either. That's why they only really give superficial arguments. It's the knee-jerk reaction to, oh, we're not doing that. Oh, well, yeah, I guess we have to. Okay, I get it. You know, no one really fights him. Not really.
No, but they all, you can see it on their faces.
They're uncomfortable, of course.
It's something that registers without
You
dialogue.
don't need to say it.
It's all on their faces.
Yeah.
They all don't like what they have to do, but
Yeah.
they know they have to do it. It's,
Of course.
It's like you said, it's either the species or what? I mean, it's in the pale moonlight, you know, it's quite a bargain, as Garrick said.
One Starfleet officer's self-respect.
Right.
Yeah. Easy price to pay for a war, you know.
To save.
You can't you can't
all those
argue
people.
with those numbers. It's there's simply no question. You know. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. It would have undercut whether they were alive or dead had he gone back. You know, the point is you can't go back in a way. It's done. You know what I mean?
It may have been gut punching if
they were dead.
It maybe not circled back, but maybe they had
got a report or something.
Got a report, oh, there's debris on this planet. It matches the vessel that we hijacked.
Yeah.
And like, ooh. And then they don't say anything and said, okay, well, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Set course for Druidi. You know?
No, I wouldn't have minded that in a way. Yeah. To say, you know, oh, Captain, we have we're picking up an energy signature for the thing you told us to always keep an eye out for. What is it? Oh. Well, let's just keep going. You know, yeah. That would have been interesting.
All he should have said in that point was, I'll note that in my log. Thank you. And just move on. Like,
seriously,
there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I really liked there was this theme of desperation. I mean, we haven't talked about the B plot, which was to Paul suffering from Trellium D withdrawals.
Right.
And this has been something that's been
hinted at.
I don't know if it was. Maybe it was in the episode she referenced, Impulse, where she was affected by the Trellium D or something or other. Quite honestly, Impulse was so long ago, I can't remember if they had said that or not in the episode. So long ago for us in our rewatch.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
That was at the beginning of the season. But she brings it up, and she said that when she was on that ship, she was affected by it. It affected her more than she anticipated. But she said it allowed her to access emotions that she had never been able to access before. And so she deliberately started taking Trellium D, injecting it into her, well, eating it first, and then injecting it to herself, to herself later.
Right. She even looked like she had it, for a second. I'm sure it was not an accident that before you see the machine that she puts it in, it almost looks like she's putting it in a spoon, like a little crack spoon.
I was about to say, it's like she's going to be shooting up between her toes.
I know. She's like, wow, they're really
to cover
going
the
for
tracks. I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I'm not sure if how clearly it was carried over, if we were dropped hints, you know, that she was being affected by this Trellium D. Something tells me no. But it's possible I missed it.
I think it was there, but I think it was very subtle.
Okay,
it's hard to tell. Is it Trellium D or is it constipation?
Well,
to Paul, I never know.
Right. Yeah, we never get tired of the constipation fart jokes when we watch those. But
like Kevin Smith says, dick and fart jokes
never go out of style.
Yeah.
I liked that theme of desperation, though. As I was saying, I think they complemented each other, and that we see this macro desperation and this micro desperation. She just is, you know, going absolutely insane, having these withdrawals, and she needs to have it no matter what the cost, just like the Enterprise needs to have this warp coil.
No matter the cost.
No matter the cost.
Give me the cash.
Give me the cash. Come on. Hey. Anyway.
Did you make that? Yeah, I did.
You like
it? He's so lovable.
Yeah, that guy. I wonder if he did that in the audition. Like if it was in paper, like I want you to act like a crack addict, or if he just improv that and like, just do that on camera.
That was probably in there, but the bit about the hat to where Corbin Dallas says, I like your hat. He goes, you think it?
Well, it's just like,
I made it myself.
But and then when he starts doing the dance, you know, it's like, okay, come on, that can't be in the script. It's like when we watch Where Silence Has Lease, when Pascal dies, it can't possibly say in the script that Pascal dies the way he does.
Oh god,
it probably just says Pascal collapses to the ground and screams. But then what he does. Okay,
the director probably said, okay, just die for us on screen. All right, well, sir, I think I got something in there.
I got something for you. Maybe it might surprise you.
All right, let's do it. Oh my God, we're in the presence of gold.
Do that again.
It's a shame you're dead.
You know, if there were extra awards, you know,
he deserved one.
And the award goes to the guy who played Ensign Pascal.
Best death of that season. Yes. To this day, it still haunts me how good that was.
I know. Yeah, I love how Pulaski injects him with something like that's going to do anything.
I like how everyone that they went to, like, I feel like when he went to fall back and Patrick Stewart went
because he rises up,
yeah,
and people were like shocked.
I feel like
I don't think they knew he was going to do that.
I don't think they did. I think they instinctually were just like, well, let's catch him, and then they all kind of stood back. It was almost like
maybe the director had said like, I'm not going to tell the cast what you're going to do.
Probably like Alien. Like they didn't know how intense he was going to go. That was probably a quiet in the corner conversation.
Yeah.
And then, Pulaski, go shoot him with something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to hear the true story of that one.
Yeah, somebody got to find Ensign Pascal.
Oh, God. Yeah. I want to hear that story.
Anyway, about damage. I'm not sure where the season's going to go from here, but finally, we're hitting a note that felt earned.
Yeah.
It just, like, again, beating a dead horse, the podcast. This should have happened a long time ago.
Or at least thematically should have been happening.
Yeah. I mean, how interesting would it have been for Enterprise to have been that damaged throughout most of this season?
Well, I mean, it's like Voyager Year of Hell 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. You know, do that. Do that for a season. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they make some repairs and you start to think, oh, they're going to get better. No, and then they get crapped on and then they get really beat up again. Yeah, man. Make me feel it. I'm just looking just for the sake of knowing. We have
I'm pretty sure
2, 3, 4. We have 5 episodes left.
Okay. Well, this, if memory serves, the damage of the ship, the actual damage itself, carries over. I think by the next episode, they're still working on repairs. Yeah. I don't think it's something they move on from. I think that the repairs are still ongoing.
Well, it would have to be. There's too much damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, which is good. I mean, it shows they're taking some risks, you know, and maybe it would have been, maybe they should have killed the main character.
In this episode?
Well, just in this season.
Who would you kill? Hoshi?
Or
Travis? It's got to be.
Hoshi or Travis? Probably.
I say Hoshi.
Yeah, but she's really nice to look at. Can we keep Hoshi?
She's like never even in them anymore.
Not in this season, no. I mean, she did have a few moments in this episode.
Yeah, but man.
She's pretty much a glorified extra.
She is. I mean, just as much as Mayweather is. It's a miracle that they still had jobs, honestly.
Yeah, it's sad, really. But this wasn't the ensemble that TNG was.
They wanted it to be, but no. Or even Voyager. Voyager was an ensemble, you know?
So was DS9, yeah.
Well, DS9 was intended to be, but this, it didn't click. You know, it's not like the actors didn't do anything. They didn't do anything wrong.
Well, they were going for more of a TOS vibe, right? Yeah, that wasn't an ensemble.
No, you're right. It was not. I think, unfortunately, when they cast they're in the credits, you think they're going to play a role. You know, I mean, TOS, they weren't in the credits. It was 3 people. It didn't even start that way. Mm-hmm. You know, Bones I don't think made it to the credits until I think the second season. You know, there was never, TOS, despite our reverence for the characters, TOS never played anyone but the big three as anything more than supporting characters, with the exception of Scotty. But yeah, that's the thing. We expect, because they're in the credits, for them to get lines every episode, and they certainly don't. We're lucky if we see them sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm with you, man. Kill one of them. Kill one of them off.
Yeah.
They serve a purpose.
Not really. No. It could have helped raise the stakes. I mean, that's my reasoning. And then, we also had something we haven't talked about yet in this episode, which was the council meeting with the Xindi. We see this alien woman. I don't recall ever seeing her before.
Yeah, I was a little...
She was from the future, clearly.
I gathered
and
that.
they suggested to her that she was a sphere builder, but it wasn't confirmed.
But she didn't answer them.
No, which leads to her being deceptive about it, like she's hiding something. Yeah, but
too little, too late.
Who was this person? Like, I don't recall seeing her before.
I don't either.
Or someone who looks like this species. I didn't recall.
Yeah. But she admits that she is the one responsible for sending the reptilians back into the past in Carpenter Street.
Remember that great episode?
Yeah, where they met Leland Orser.
Right, and he was not insane. Not enough. Like, he should have been going.
No, he should have been more insane.
Yes, he was.
Leland Orser is better the more insane he is.
Yes, the more over the top. Yes,
I can't be here. I can't freaking be here.
Referencing a movie nobody saw from over 20 years ago.
Oh, we saw it.
Us and about 3 other people that day.
It's a good movie.
I know.
Deserves more love.
It's called Confidence, in case anybody wants to know. Look it up. It's great.
Why don't you get your ADD under control?
Yeah. I think I don't think I have anything else to say about this episode other than it was nice to see him take some chances and go into some dark territory. You can't do that all the time.
No, nor do I mean to imply this is what every episode should be like.
No. Because Star Trek can't do that all the time. DS9 didn't do that.
Well, you can't have anything go on for too long like that. You have to have peaks and valleys, but they have to.
Because Deep Space Nine would balance out In the Pale Moonlight with something like
Ferengi love songs.
Ferengi love songs, or when they play baseball against the Vulcans.
But they somehow managed to keep the threat alive.
Ferengi love songs. Or what's the where he dresses up as a woman?
I know.
What is it called? Prophet and Lace?
Prophet and Lace.
The one we like, but nobody else does.
Or what episode is it?
She's called it Sluggo Cola. I don't remember that.
Is it Children of Time? Is it Children of Time?
Well, that's an episode.
Is Children of Time the one where they have the B plot of Quark trying to do a commercial where and Worf goes to drink his coffee and it goes, eat at Quark's, Quark's is the best.
No, they don't flash back to DS9. They're no, I know what you're talking about though. Eat at Quark's. That's what he drinks. Yes.
That Deep Space Nine should honestly be looked at for executive producers and showrunners and whatnot, to show how you can keep a very serious and dark show, but yet have some of the most ludicrous, funny stuff, and somehow it all fits. It never feels out of place.
Yeah, like the one little ship that took a little
trip. Like, they could throw that into the middle of a war arc, and it somehow feels right at home. They were able to beautifully ride that comedic line.
Well, I think it's not coincidence that we were watching an interview with Ronald D. Moore before we started this, so we have Deep Space Nine on the brain.
Well, we always have Deep Space Nine on the brain.
True, but I think the reins were much looser, according to the way he was describing it.
Everyone describes it that way
on DS9 than they were any other series, and the writing staff is a little bit more cohesive. But with Enterprise, it's clear that there was restraint, and quite frankly, I think there was burnout. Like, they should not have made Enterprise. Probably should not have been made at all.
No, I don't think it should have.
No, although every time I hear like a new Star Trek series has been announced, my ears perk up. I'm like, oh well, and but for the last,
now they have another one.
Oh no,
Starfleet Academy.
Oh, that's actually going to happen.
They've already shot the first season. It's in the can.
Really?
It's real. It's like live action.
Shot by Paramount?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
It takes place in the distant future, like after Discovery, where they're restarting Starfleet,
God,
essentially.
This is going to be a disaster.
And I don't know if you know this, the Doctor is in it.
Oh, Robert Picardo?
Yes.
Oh.
He plays the Doctor. He's not playing a human. He's playing the Doctor. Like an aged looking Doctor, because he's essentially timeless. So yeah, he's playing the Doctor.
Why not?
I know.
Well, we know his name is Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
As it was revealed in Endgame.
True. And I believe I just saw a little video that said Frakes spoiled something, saying something about number one. You might see number 1 and number 2. You know, like obviously he's probably directing an episode.
Yeah,
he directs everything. But the implication was his character will show up probably in a archive, message, obviously, something like that. But
I'd like to tell you about this movie called Thunderbirds.
Is it still bad? Let's take a look.
Here's my retrospective.
I'm sending you this message from Director Jail.
Here's my 20-part retrospective on the movie Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Anyway, I forgot what I was going to...
I record my life with the beginning of my life. I record that I was born. And it all goes from there.
I don't think, now that we're off on a tangent, Starfleet
there's not much
Academy.
to say, like you said.
No, well,
it's a good episode.
Well, no, but I was just going to say Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. Whatever it is. Is it going to be just called Starfleet Academy?
Yeah.
It's going to be a disaster.
Of course it is. Modern Trek.
All of these modern shows have been absolutely
garbage,
awful garbage. They're not Star Trek. They're just they have the Star Trek branding. They slapped it onto some woke garbage that's just poorly written, and they're, I hate this phrase, member berries.
They are,
but that's all they are.
They are. I don't understand. Well, I mean, look at Ron Moore. Right, Ron Moore. You were talking about earlier. I didn't even know this until just recently. That he must be an executive producer or head writer on Outlander, a couple other shows that I was like, he did that. He's involved in that. I didn't know that. Of course, Battlestar. The point I'm making is that he's a guy that's proven he could come out of that, classic Star Trek mold and adapt to modern day storytelling. I'm sure there are other successful writers and or showrunners like Ira Bear or whatever that they could tap to bring back and give us updated but good Star Trek again. Why aren't they doing this? I don't understand. They cannot be unaware of the backlash that they're getting towards so many of these shows. Why wouldn't you go back to some of the people that made the best of the best? Why not? I did read a quote from Ron Moore just recently where he said he'd be interested in going back to Trek.
Like we were talking about before we started this recording, this interview was capped off with him being asked about modern Trek, and he kind of conveniently skirted criticizing it in any way.
Said it was nice to see Patrick Stewart.
It's like,
again.
that seemed very emotionally satisfying. He didn't say anything about the show being terrible or anything like that. Just he's skipped it around.
Stupid.
He's not going to say anything bad about the actors he worked with,
of course not,
or the show. Like, but it was clear he was just being polite and not going into too much detail about how awful it is. But I mean, the Star Trek he was a part of was good, and what it is now is just it's I said,
it's not Trek.
It's not, and it's really sad. I wish they would bring him back because Battlestar was his test outside of Star Trek, and he proved himself.
Would you, as a Star Trek viewer fan, knowing where Enterprise went, Nemesis, Insurrection, okay, the last of of classic
of that era.
There's classic Trek, then there's new Trek, and then there's modern Trek, right? To kind of equate that to like Doctor Who, classic Who, new Who, and
is it postmodern, modern, and
postmodern Star Trek, right? So, how would you feel if Paramount rehired Rick Berman and said, "You're in charge of Star Trek again, just like you were before," and the only thing they would tell Rick Berman is, we would like you to have a diverse cast, which Star Trek has always done. really. But the rest, we're going to leave it to you because you were a shepherd of Star Trek and what Star Trek was for so long. If they said to you that Rick Berman was basically the gloves are like the handcuffs are off, would you even be interested in seeing what Rick Berman coming back after all these years could do?
Well, sure, I'd be interested, but
or would it be more heartbreak because you're like you can't go back there?
It's a double-edged sword.
Sure.
Yeah, of course, I'd like to see what they could come up with, but it was a time that's passed, and I would like to think that other writers
Would be better suited.
Well, no, other writers could pick up the thread of what was left because they can watch the older episodes and see how they were written.
Yeah.
The same writers aren't going to be alive forever. You have to be able to move on with other writers. That's what Next Gen was all about.
Right.
They tried some of the older writers like DC Fontana, but she moved on. And TNG ended up doing well. They found a groove. TNG managed to be its own thing while still being Star Trek.
Right.
So why can't they do that somewhere else? Of course they can. They're deliberately choosing this other way for some reason because it's in vogue.
Yeah, I know.
And I hate this phrase too, echo chamber. I don't think they're aware.
Maybe they're not. Maybe you're right. You know, like I'm sure Patrick Stewart simply had to be isolated from the criticisms because there's no way in hell he would have come back for season 2 if he knew what people really thought of it. Like when he goes to a Comic-Con after the first season,
I'm sure he is.
There's no way anyone said anything bad to him about that show. They're probably like, we love you so much.
Right.
But and the producers, the writers, his handlers,
yeah,
they insulated him.
Of
You're
course.
right.
The same
he
way.
had no idea.
Like I just said, to reference the interview again, Ron Moore was unwilling to say anything bad about it.
Yeah.
That's how it probably happens.
Yeah, you're right.
And his handlers or whoever's handlers aren't going to hand you a review that's bad.
Sure.
They'll give you good stuff.
He could go online, but most actors are smart enough not to do that these days.
Yeah, well, they'll chalk it up and say, "Oh, that's just everyone's a critic. Everyone's gonna. Not everyone can. You can't please everyone. That's just what they'll say. But they feel righteous in their choices, you know, and they are insulated to the point where I don't think they realize that they're crazy. I mean, I can't remember what I was watching on YouTube yesterday, but it was a clip of John Cusack, and I know John Cusack is an activist. And I don't like it. If you want to be an activist, fine. Just, I don't want to know about it when you're an actor because it spoils the illusion. And I knew he's probably a bit nutty, but I saw a clip of him and it's Lloyd Dobler. It's high fidelity. It's like, I like John Cusack as an actor. I do. But he's saying the most stupid things about politics. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up.
Yeah.
You can hate whoever's in the Oval Office as much as you want. I don't care. Just don't ruin this illusion for me. And just don't. But it's clear, like, this is what he's around all the time. That's my point. He's insulated to the point where the people he knows in Hollywood, that's all they know. Right. And so he thinks this is normal. Like, it's not normal. You're weird. Just leave it at that.
It's fair. Fair.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of those people in Hollywood have their heads so far up their asses, like, well, you know, this is about social justice. And, you know, we have to have 3 black men in this show or else, you know, we're going to feel like oppressive. Okay. Let's not worry about
what is Team America? What is the Actors Guild called?
Fag.
Well, I know.
Oh, it's the Film Actors Guild.
Actors Guild.
Yeah.
Fag. I love that. I mean, because they say it, you know, we're actors and our opinions are more important than yours.
Yeah. We'll read articles in newspapers and then repeat those things on camera like it's our own idea.
And that's our responsibility.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I think a lot of them are like that. I mean, we mentioned Robert De Niro the other day.
Yeah.
We were watching The Godfather Part 2. And I was like, you know, it's too bad that Robert De Niro has kind of ruined himself because he's a nutbag.
He's gone political.
Yeah. And I'm like, why do I need to know this about you?
Yeah.
You're a brilliant actor.
I don't need
now
to
I
know
just
your
think
political
now I just think
opinions.
you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It's like, you do one thing really well now. That's all I think of. And the rest of the time, you're bonkers.
Yeah.
Thanks for ruining it.
Fair.
Don't say it. Like, just don't say it. There was an interview I saw with Eric Christian Olsen. Seems like a cool cat.
Yeah.
And he was being interviewed by someone, and they were asking him a bunch of questions, and he stopped mid-sentence and he said, you know what? I was about to veer off into politics, and I thought, probably not a good idea. So he's like, forget it. Let's move on.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. See, he knows.
Yeah.
He knows. Anyway, so let's rate this episode. I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to give it a solid A. I really enjoy it. I think its tempo is good. Its pacing is good. I was fully engaged.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing.
I would agree with you. I'll say the same thing. I'll say it's an A.
I think we had 2 quality episodes back to back.
Yeah.
Even though Azadi Prime was a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember what happened in it. I remember it being good. It was a couple of weeks ago, our time.
Yeah.
I mean, in the future, when you're listening to it, I guess.
We did it yesterday. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Which means we're right on track for another dud.
What is next, by the way?
The Forgotten.
The heck is that about?
I don't know. I already forgot about it.
There's a movie called The Forgotten with Julianne Moore.
Yeah, this isn't it.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It's like, did she do a crossover? What?
This is like, okay, I'm going to say this, even though no one will get it. There's like one person listening that will get that. I have a Plex home media server.
Okay.
When you drop something new into your personal library,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a TV show, it won't automatically detect what the show is. You have to tell it.
Okay.
So when you'll have your, Star Trek, Superman, whatever shows are all there. And then because it doesn't know what to call it yet, because you haven't assigned it to a show,
yeah,
it comes up as a TV show called The Forgotten with Christian Slater. And it's like Plex in joke, The Forgotten. Like, what are you? It's asking you, what is this? And you have to unmatch it and then correctly match it. But every time it's the default. Doesn't matter what you've got written on your titles for it. It'll come up as The Forgotten.
Okay.
Which I think is hilarious.
If even one person got that.
Someone out there does
Uses
Plex, gets this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know what that episode is. I guess it can't be great since we can't remember it.
Yeah, not a bit.
It's kind of ironic.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Irony can be pretty ironic sometimes.
Unless they call the episode like Remembrance and we forgot that.
Right. So we haven't heard from anyone in our
anyone out there?
Brief little hiatus. I hope you start writing in because we're getting to the end of season 3. It's been harder to record this past like 3 weeks or so because I've been under the gun with anyway, nobody cares. I've been under the gun. So we have not been able to get together. I've just been too busy.
I know.
So if you would like to write in, please continue to write in. We would hopefully someone can write in and tell us what the hell The Forgotten is about. Give us some info about it, some trivia, or their own review. Our email is still the same, podcastnx01@gmail.com. And please add a review to the Apple Podcasts site. That would help us out. We haven't gotten any new reviews for a little while. It just takes a couple seconds.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And it'd be nice if you didn't give us 1 star. Please give us at least 3. If we're halfway decent, I'd appreciate that. Anyway, hate mail too is welcome. We'll definitely read that on the show.
I feel like we're the podcast equivalent of the guys that stand on the side of the freeway holding up a sign saying, at least flip me off.
Oh, okay.
Like acknowledge my existence.
I thought you were going to do a Joe Dirt reference. He had a sign that said, will not rape you.
No. Oh, God.
Anyway, all right. Hopefully we'll remember The Forgotten next week. Bye.
Bye.